Hello and welcome to the Cube Talk Show. My name is Joe Barbieri, I'm your host, and tonight we have with us Vwodek Wojczynski.
Wwodek.
Vwodek. I'll get it right by the end of the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, he is he's a business coach and global entrepreneur, and he'll be talking about the ineffective habits that people have when starting a business, and also the successes that people have. So, how are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
That's good. So, just a bit of background. What do you do in terms of a business coach?
Yeah, so my background is I started on this pathway when I was 21 years old, being an entrepreneur. And I launched my first business at that time. It was in design. I was going to school at York University, Sheridan College, studying graphic design. And I compared my design to the design that was, that the studios were producing and the ones I was doing at school. And I thought they're pretty comparable. And I decided to take the pathway and take the leap of starting, my own company. So I did that I actually did it as a self-employed person. So I didn't have, staff or people helping me, assisting me, because I didn't know anything about that. In fact, I probably had a lot of ineffective habits at that time.
Yeah.
That throughout, when I met my mentor when I was 26 years old, and I'm 32 now, but when I met my mentor when I was 26, he began to train me in what businesses are and how they work and what actually produces results and what habits or routines or practices that people have that don't allow a business to thrive and grow. And he trained me for a period of 4 years, and he called me. My mentor's in Los Angeles, so he took me under his wing, and he called me pretty much every day for 4 years. And he transferred his knowledge and his area of expertise in developing and building over 900 businesses so far. So far. Because he's still fairly young. He's still, I think he's 49. So he's still got many years ahead of him to build many more. And I was really lucky. Because I had that opportunity to really learn from somebody that's been there, knows what works, and can reproduce that successful business development process over and over and over again. So a lot of the myths along the way of business is risky, all those things that most people think are really not true. So that's a little bit about my background and how I got to be where I am. And of course, over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with many people and assisting them in developing their businesses here in Canada and the United States and in Europe. And even in Asia. So we've been very fortunate that way. We intend to assist and grow and coach many more.
So you said global entrepreneur, so that's starting your own companies as well.
Yeah. So I participate in, and I'm a member of companies in the United States and in Africa as well. And it's very interesting because opportunities are kind of like rain. Once you can see opportunity, it just doesn't stop pouring.
Yeah.
So you really gotta pick your opportunities, the ones that you feel are the right ones for you, and really align with your values and what you're up to in the world. There's really an abundance of things that you could take on. So I've been again very fortunate, and I would say. Things have been kind of thrown at my lap that have been just really awesome and amazing, and I'm just really grateful to be able to participate with all the people that I'm working with. And I guess you could say my team, my partners, my associates, my wife, everybody that I'm with, the investors that we work with as a team.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Thanks.
So the habits. I guess we could start with what's the most common habit that you encounter that people have that makes them fail?
Well, because we're talking about businesses when they start, when people are starting a business, I would say one of the most common ones that people have is and it's associated with, I'm going to do this on my own. Or something like, I don't need a team. And the habit that people have is taking it on as a self-employment. So they don't really start a business. So when I work with people, I actually distinguish or separate what a business is and what self-employment is.
Yeah.
They're two separate things. You could say that, self-employment is you give yourself jobs, and when we actually count the jobs, you end up having 15, 20 of them, sometimes more, and that's very tiring. Business is a different design, a different conversation. When you start a business, what you're doing is it's really a team sport. It's designed to be a team sport. And the analogy you could use is, just imagine if you're, playing sports and a team sport, like basketball or soccer, and you're the star player, like the best player in the world. And in the World Cup final or the NBA final, whatever it is, you tell your entire team to go home, and that you're going to play 1 on 11 if it's soccer, you're going to play 1 on 5 if it's basketball. I mean, really, like, what are your chances of winning? No matter how good you are, you can't win. And that is one of those key habits that, when you're in business, you really got to learn how to build teams naturally around you, and you got to be very comfortable with that. And you got to, part of it that what people deal with is this whole conversation of, I don't trust people.
Yeah. That's what's under that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what would be under that. That's correct. And what we usually find, really, there's something that happened at some point in the past, whenever it was, and there was some form of an incident, and whatever happened during that incident created like a pattern for that individual. And then that pattern became not something that was in the foreground, like something that you could actually see for yourself, but it went in the background. So it was no longer in clear vision.
Yeah.
And that pattern then uses us, and until we examine that pattern, we are at the effect of that pattern.
Yeah.
So in our work, what we do is we become like a mirror for our clients, and we allow them to see, for example, that pattern, and really get to explore what it is about that has it, be stuck in place. And normally when people see, it's not, I would say, normally it's not something that people, are really aware of in themselves. So when we mention it to them, there may be some form of a reaction to that, like a defense, like, I know I just said I don't trust people, but I really do. And that's really like just a cover-up of what's really there, because there's something that's being hidden.
Yeah.
And so there's all like this mountain of stuff that's being hidden that we get to uncover, and what we usually find is there's a tremendous amount of emotional growth that happens for people throughout that process, as they really begin to, take on the point of view that, you trust people and train them, and if people become untrainable, then you disconnect from them, because in business, what you got to realize, because it's a team sport, the most important thing is, if you're going to work with people, people are trainable around you, they're coachable, and they're willing to learn. That's the most important quality to have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
Very much.
But if you come from the mindset, oh, I don't trust people, then you've written pretty much everybody off, because you won't look for, is this person trainable, coachable? Can I work with this person and develop them to be something more? Because nobody's ever really perfect. When I got trained and developed by my mentor, I got to tell you, I didn't really know much about this field of coaching and how to build businesses. Now I can say I have some facility because I have a track record and results being produced, right? And so that's basically one of those habits that people got to deal with.
So when you say that you become the mirror, so how would you do that? Would you imitate them? Would you ask them questions? How would that come out?
How would that come out? It's really through the speech patterns and the behavior people have, right? So oftentimes we're talking, but we're not even aware of what we're saying.
Okay.
So we may be saying things like, oh, I know that. And we say that over and over. Like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know this too, yeah. And I have some people that say that, right? So, I would, at that point, when I'm working with somebody that's like a new client of mine, I would say something like, can I offer you some coaching? And they go, because they hired me, they usually say, yeah. And I say, well, here's my coaching. Instead of saying, I know, for the next week, I invite you to say, I don't know. And catch yourself every time you say, I know. And see what shows up. And then I give them a little bit more information. For example, when you say that you know something, then it eliminates the possibility of actually learning. So you could say, for business people, you really gotta, because there's so much to learn from the actual, from marketing to the sales, to customer service, to finance, to personnel and how to train your people, to the delivering of your product, to the administration of it, to the taxation system, to how to do R&D and communication. I mean, there's just a tremendous amount of things you got to learn. And if you already know it all, I mean, as a habit, that would limit your growth. And it doesn't serve business people at all. In fact, business people are like sponges. They just take, they take on courses, they take on developing themselves, they take on mentors, as much support as they can possibly get. And that's really required when you're starting out. Because quite frankly, unless you have done it before, you really don't know much. I really didn't know much when I started. And quite frankly, it would have saved me a lot of time if I just had somebody to tell me
I don't know.
That I don't know, and I'd start saying that. So that's one of the ways that we mirror people, by listening to how they talk. The other way is simply by looking at what results show up around them. So, people that are clear how to produce certain results, then results show up around them. But if your mindset isn't in the right place, then when we work with people, their behavior will sabotage certain things in their business. For example, let's say you intend to have a certain result happen, and you say, yes, I'm going to get it done. I'm very excited, but it's really all pretense. What ends up happening is, they do something completely opposite because behaviorally, they're not ready to have that result. It may be too big, it may be out of their reality. So what we have to do is fit the words that come out of the people's mouths with how they behave in the real world, so that the actions are consistent with what you say, what you do, and then obviously what you end up having as a result in your business or in your life.
So it's about limitations, right? You're finding all your limitations and
you could say that, and throughout that process, you really find out that you're unlimited.
Yeah,
you really do, because once you get that everything you have so far, once you get that everything you've built so far, everything you have in your life so far, everything you've created, you did it. Nobody forced you to do it. Nobody, imposed, some evil wand onto you and told you need to have it. No, you just become responsible for everything you created. And the moment you do that, it's really this really amazing moment, because now you can be fully at cause for having your life just the way it is. And at that moment, you find out that you can really just have anything you want. And that's when businesses really start to thrive. Because there's no more, okay, before it was about, is blaming so-and-so and the market, they couldn't get enough customers, and my employees couldn't do this, and you're just, pointing fingers at everybody, not recognizing that there's 3 fingers coming right back at you this way. So mathematically, if it doesn't make sense, right? So you're really just blaming yourself for everything that happened. And once you get that, it's really just, people get a real sense of freedom, and their ability to really grow now is unlimited. Now everybody now needs to, everybody puts whatever unlimited is for them. It may be that they want to build a small business. Awesome, because that's their real authentic expression in the world. Some people may want to build 5 businesses. That's great too, because that's their authentic expression. That's their truth. That's what is real for them, and because it's real for them, the process then becomes simple. I wouldn't say it's always easy, but it's simple. It's
clear,
right?
Yeah.
Like it's simple to wake up in the morning every day, once a day, one time you could say, and jog for 45 minutes at 6 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. But it's not easy to do that for 365 days, right?
Yeah.
And in business, one of the habits that people have that don't really work is being inconsistent. So inconsistency is another habit that has, especially initially, and the reason is when you start out, it takes a while to actually see any type of result. I call it going from 0 to 1. So when you're starting from nothing, from 0 to have 1, takes a tremendous amount of energy, just like a rocket that goes into space, right?
All the energy
is at the start. Once you're in orbit, it doesn't really use much energy, right?
Yeah.
But at the beginning, it's the fuel rockets, and you got this ship just going up into outer space, right? So it requires a tremendous amount of energy. And when people start businesses, they expect things to happen like right away. Unfortunately, when you
like the paycheck.
Like the paycheck.
Right away.
You get the paycheck right away. And then you bring up a good point, because it's, most of us are, I guess you could say, trained or conditioned or into being a worker, into being an employee. And I'll get to that. But the inconsistency, the way when it shows up, people have an experience of, I'm not good enough, why can't I do it? And they blame themselves for not being able to have the result that they want. And it's not really about them. It just, on a system level, you just need to input more energy to actually have the result. So a habit that actually works is being patient. Right? And from my experience, I don't know why, but it's not a quality that we have that naturally gets expressed in people. Patience. So everybody just wants everything now.
Yeah.
Right?
The gratification syndrome.
Yeah, the instant gratification. That's right.
So inconsistency, so that you find that that's in the beginning.
Happens later too. It happens throughout.
Later.
Absolutely.
It can happen any time, right?
It can happen any time. At different points or stages of development of a business, it can literally, like, you can have a thriving enterprise, and what people do normally is when they produce a lot of results, like when people win the lottery, they're like,
they kind of just back off and
I can relax now.
Not do anything. Yeah.
And statistically, even if you look at people that win the lottery, I think it's something like, it's over 90% of people that get bankrupt within 3 years.
I've seen that statistic. Yeah.
You've seen that statistic personally?
No, not personally. I've just read about it.
I read about it. Yeah.
Most people go broke.
Most people go broke
within 3 years of winning.
Yeah. So what happens?
Which is kind of funny.
It is kind of funny, isn't it? Because we're really not trained on how to deal with abundance. We're not trained to how to deal with a lot. And if you try to deal as an individual, we have too much of something. What our experience is like we shut down. So when you produce a lot of results in your business quicker than you can take in as an individual, and if you don't have a team around you to support you, the natural reaction for a human being or for the business person is to basically sabotage what they're building. And that creates the inconsistency, because now all of a sudden you've produced a result, and whether or not you know how to reproduce that result and what you did, most of the time people don't know how to reproduce the result once they produce it. But let's just say that they do know how they produce the result, they know the steps, then they fall down pretty much to the same level that they had before they started to produce that result. And that's kind of consistent. And I've seen that just, everybody coming back from the holidays. So, I work with several companies and everybody just goes on vacation. But then it happens throughout the year as well as, really any time frame. But holidays are kind of like a good excuse to
close it down.
To close it down and shut yourself off and not really produce anything. And I tell my clients, it's really not true that during December your business has to slow down.
Well, a Christmas shop will not slow down.
That's right.
Will it?
And we went out ourselves and we started to prove that that's not the case. So year after year, December is our biggest month, right? And so it's just not true. You can really generate results during any month of the year that you say, and then it's just really a matter of having enough support, enough structures, so you can be consistent with producing those results over time. And you can't really do it by yourself consistently over time. Requires somebody else to support you in that process. That's what I've discovered so far.
Yeah, it's very good to know. So so the results people get are what they're used to. So if they're on this trajectory, and then they get this big windfall, they want to get back to the trajectory, and then they'll continue.
Yeah, because it disrupts people's reality of what's possible and what's not possible. So if you produce too big of a result too quickly, it's almost just like those people winning the lottery. People don't understand. We just don't know what to deal with. People just go start buying all these liabilities, right?
Yeah.
Houses, cars, without really understanding the concept of money, and that the basic operating principle of any business is cash flow. There's a saying, cash flow is king.
Yeah.
It really is.
And cash is king too.
Cash is king, right?
In investing.
Absolutely. So, if you have, for anybody watching this, if you ever do win the lottery, and I don't play games of chance, it's much easier to actually make a lot of money in business rather than playing a game of chance, like the lottery. Because heck, you may get struck by lightning before you win that. So, It's just much simpler actually, to take consistent action over a period of time and know what you need to do to actually produce the result. It's reliable, it's reproducible, it's replicatable, and
unlimited.
And it's unlimited, that's right. Because you can always find new offers to make to people. You can always invent new products. You can always partner with another business to make up a bigger offering. You can always bring in more business partners. You can always start a new company. There is really no limit to it, as long as you have the right habits and mindset for that. Then the thinking is what will end up really manifesting, or the results itself will start showing up around you. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes?
We'll just take a break for a few minutes, and we'll come back with some more habits. So stay tuned. And we're back on the Cube Talk Show, and we're talking about the habits that make people succeed or fail in business. And so we talked about trust and limitations. So what other habits have you encountered that that you've seen?
Well, one of the habits that I've seen that's really effective for people, and it's so simple, is reading. Reading. And very few people actually read. It's interesting, right? Because it's not as if we can't read, but we almost have like an aversion to reading. And what I find is that people that read, even if it's a page a day, produce more results than people that don't read that 1 page a day. So as a habit, if you were to just to read, you know, for example, I have interns in my company. I assigned them 6 books to read this year, and they total 1,700 pages. And I told them to read 5 pages a day, and if they read 5 pages a day, they'll read those 6 books.
Yeah.
Now, 5 pages isn't a lot to read in a day. You can probably read 5 pages while you're eating your breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? It may even probably take you less. And if people don't, you know, and that's really just one of those skills that's really powerful for people to adopt, because in the information age, you have to build up your capacity to process information. If you don't build up your capacity to process information, then you'll be left behind, because other people will just outthink you, outsmart you, out-strategize you, out everything you.
Yeah.
Because they just, what they'll have is information and knowledge that you don't.
So is this reading of anything, or?
Well, the specific reading that you really want to focus on. And, you know, what I recommend for people, especially in business, is getting their financial education to a level that's at least at the basic level of understanding. So I recommend people read a lot of a lot of books on finance. Some of them are actually very interesting and fascinating. You know, because that's a huge part of business, learning about how that part of it works. And most of us don't even have basic financial education. And I think I can attribute that to the fact that we went to public school, and we don't really get financial education there. So, and I don't even mean like financial education that you even get like in university, like an economics degree. I mean like real practical financial education that business people can use. And to give you an example of some of the books that I would suggest people read is, and there's many more than this, but the Robert Kiyosaki series of books is really excellent. And that's where I have all my interns start, because the language is simple. It's not rocket science. He breaks it down to very simple concepts. And you can really just understand it. Even if you don't really know anything about finance, you can just get it if you just read it. And you know, there's many others that I would say are comparable, but those are usually a good start, because there's a whole series of them, and they're very easy to recognize, and many used copies you can even buy from for $5.
Yeah.
So it's cheap, and that's one of some of the books. The other books that I recommend people read are things that they enjoy to read. Like if people like novels, they should read novels. If they like science fiction stuff, they should read science fiction stuff. Like find literature that you can get excited about. For example, my wife, she just recently read Ayn Rand's book. I forgot. Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not necessarily like a finance book, and at the same time, it teaches you how business people operate and how they think, and also teaches you how non-business people think and operate in government positions, etc. So it gives you kind of like a clear picture of, in a story format, of how you can, the type of things you can take away from a book like that, and then apply it, obviously over time, in your business and how you think and how you behave. So those are the couple of things that I would suggest people do. In terms of reading.
Yeah. So is there any other
habits?
Habits, yes.
Well, there's lots, right? I mean, literally, really, in terms of ineffective habits, you can probably sit here for hours. Another one of the things that people do that I generally find to be a very simple thing is not being good to people. In other words, being arrogant or rude, or even being rude to their customers or to their clients or their staff, and yelling and being angry. In terms of habits, there's really just way simpler ways of interacting with other human beings that expend way less energy, and you don't have to sacrifice, your relationships with the people you work with in order to, produce some result that you think. If you you have to force things. It's not really about forcing things in business. It's really about orchestrating, like the conductor in an orchestra. They move that thing, and the orchestra just plays their music. They don't yell at them like, play the clarinet, God damn you. No, the trombone's off. You're fired. It's like you work with you work together to orchestrate a result that you individually couldn't produce by yourself, and that's really a skill that takes time for people to learn. But I would say being good to people has its lots of rewards, because then if you're good to people, then people just want to be around you. If you're mean to them, then people want to be not around you. They would want to go somewhere else. And so what I find is the trained business people and business owners, they're usually really great. They're generous and they're giving and not to the point of like foolishness, but there's something about them, like a quality that's present that untrained business people simply don't have. So as a habit, they may do simple things that express that goodness, whatever way they express it. Maybe it's simple saying please and thank you, right? Just taking that on for a week and seeing what happens, and seeing what kind of response people have around you. Maybe taking a course that allows you to develop yourself in new ways, that again may allow you to just operate with some degree of compassion for human beings. That really helps as a habit to enable bigger and bigger results. And then people want to be around you, and then it attracts a lot of energy and attraction, and then greater things happen. Right?
Yeah, this reminds me of people I've worked with.
Oh, is that right?
And yeah, you remember that boss that everybody hates, but the person they remember the most is the one that they liked.
Yeah.
And they did that thing you were just saying. They appreciated such and such a thing you did, or they gave you something that was unusual, and that stays in there for life.
Yeah, so things like acknowledgement, from what I can tell, our world is not built for acknowledging people. Hey, Joe, I just want to acknowledge you for that thing you did today in that meeting. It was really awesome. Thanks for doing that. That probably takes, 3 seconds? And it has that person feel great, or appreciating someone for something that they did. And it also works great in managing people. Oftentimes we're very good at pointing out the mistakes somebody does. Oh, this report on page 17, did you notice this? There's a spelling mistake here. I can't use this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of saying, wow, this is great. You did amazing work here. And what I really like about it is this section, this part is really great. And I also have some feedback for you. On page 17, I noticed, and probably your spell check didn't catch this. There's a typo here. Can you please fix that so I can then submit it to whoever I need to submit it to? Great, thanks.
So am I still fired with that approach, or is it? No.
No, exactly. No. That's the whole thing, right? It makes people feel like they're doing a good job. And from my experience, most people just want to do a good job. And if you give them the experience of doing a good job, they'll want to continue doing that. You know, so it's, I mean, this is not rocket science. It's not habits that you need to kind of ponder about and go, how do I go about this, right? It's just really got to look and see if that's the type of environment or culture you want to be inside of, and then practice them over time. And it won't happen overnight, right? But over time, you'll be able to foster an environment in your business where that is how things are, and people will just operate consistent with how you set things up. So that's how you learn as a business person to build a system, a cultural system. So when people come in there, you know, there's already that kind of environment or culture that engenders and forwards that kind of behavior.
So I can I assume then, as people do these habits, they change.
Yes.
And the people around them change.
Yes.
And the more of the habits you do, the more successful you get.
Yes.
And then you become fairly complete.
Yeah.
Because all these habits sort of overlap each other and they make you...
Well, you already are whole and complete, right?
Yeah.
You already are complete. And these habits are not about fixing you, or like, people are not broken, right? It's just, if you're intending on producing exceptional results consistently over time, there's certain things you have to understand. Like, I was reading a statistics the other day, 0.74% of the population retires wealthy. 0.74.
0.7.
And those are the business owners and real estate investors. So out of 100 people, not even one person, right, has the habits required to retire wealthy at the age of 65. So just based up, and that's you know, publicly known information. It's not like it's hidden from anybody's view. So, you know, my assertion is that the other 99.26% have habits that don't allow them to produce the results that the 0.74% has. So I would be really interested in, what are the habits that you have that, you know, allow you to have the life that you live? And then, you know, obviously build up to those over time and learn from those people as much as you possibly can, so that that becomes your reality, part of, you know, who you are, what you are, and life just becomes easier.
It flows.
It really does. It really does flow.
And things come to you.
Things come to you because you begin to, you know, you always attract, I heard this thing said, you always attract who you are. Right? So if you're angry, you attract that. If you're calm and peaceful, then you attract that. If you have an intention on being wealthy, no matter where you are today, if that's your intention, you focus on that, then that shall be so. And you know, along the way, you may be steered off the tracks. Well, that's a good thing about us as coaches. We're very good at bringing people back on the pathway that they set themselves out on, right? So they stay focused on that. Because, you know, even for myself, you know, one of the things that has me be great is I have I call it a wise counsel. You know, so I have mentors and coaches around me that keep me focused. Because I'm human just like everybody else. And, you know, and I'm an entrepreneur just like, you know, people that I train. So, you know, for me, those things that I do that are ineffective, you know, they literally like blare at me much more, because I can see them, because that's this, you know, that's the thing that I train people in, right? So if I'm not consistent,
You're more sensitized.
I'm very sensitive to it, right? So if I'm not consistent with it, then I'm pretty much, you know, if I'm telling somebody else to do it, you know, that doesn't really work, right? So I have to learn to adopt these things first and integrate them into who I am, and so before I begin to train people in those things.
You ever get coached by the mentees? They'll come to you and say, oh yeah,
Actually, it's interesting. You know, when you're a lot of the aspect of what we do is, you know, teaching people, right? I guess you could say at the bottom line is, you know, we learn and we teach each other, right? So I think for a teacher to be effective, they also learn from their students. And you know, it's really like, again, like the flow that you said. You know, if you're just expecting just to dump a whole bunch of information and not receive anything back, I mean, I just really think you're kidding yourself. You know, I think the mark of a great teacher is that they can learn from their environment. I tell my clients it's free training and development. So, you know, people pay a lot of money to do courses. I just said, listen, the environment itself will train you. People around Toronto will train you. They'll tell you what they need and they'll tell you what they want. And if you finally can let go of whatever assumption you have about what they need and want and actually listen to the market and to the group of people that you're intending out to serve or provide a service, then you won't need to sell anything. Your business will just become an order-taking business. You just take orders.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, people want pizza, right? You know, pizza men, they'll go around the neighborhood going, hey man, you want
pizza?
You want some pizza, man? Jeez, my business is doing really tough. You know, I don't think I'm gonna be able to feed my family this week. You know, people just want pizza, so they just get it. They just take orders. And the pizza man is basically like, oh my God, I got so many orders. Whew. Right? So that's really what's possible for businesses. You know, and like I said, the environment will train you. And then once you become aware enough of what the environment needs and wants, you can now really take on, you know, providing that to them and develop a business around it. And that's how it all starts, really.
Okay, that's very good. We have about 5 minutes left, so...
Wow, that went pretty pretty fast.
That was very fast.
Yeah, like again, like,
It
you know,
usually does go fast.
it does go fast. We should do this again, eh?
Oh yes, we can.
Yeah.
And if you want to give people contact information, a website or an email, anything that...
Yeah, sure. I'll give them contact info. So my personal email, so it's Vwodek, and that's VW like Volkswagen, O as in Omicron, D as in Delta, E as in Epsilon, and K as in Kilo, and it's at integrallegacy.com, and that's with 2 L's. So it's integrallegacy.com.
Okay.
And my phone number, this is my direct office. It's a 416-929-8415.
Okay. Do you have a general website that people can...
Oh yeah, the general website is integrallegacy.com.
Integral Legacy, okay.
And it's, just as a word of caution, it's under construction. Quite frankly, we've been so busy working with our clients, we literally haven't had a chance to look at our website.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so...
You're doing the pizza man business.
We're doing a lot of order taking, you know, and it's been great that way, right? And again, it's taken time for us to get to that place, so that, you know, we have a sustainable business that, again, lives inside of a community of people, and we just kind of I get kind of like thrown around like a conversation. Hey, you should talk to Vwodek, he's cool. Okay. So then I show up in certain meetings and kind of like this, and then people ask me questions. I ask them a lot of questions as well, and we kind of figure out what there is to work on, and then we get to work.
Yeah, it's very good. So that's our show for today, and you can watch this show on Tuesdays from 6 to 7. The third Tuesday of the month is the regular time, and I may do additional shows as I find the guests. So I've been running about 2 shows per month. And my website is www.joetheinvestor.ca, and my contact information is joetheinvestor.today@gmail.com. And thanks for watching, and have a good evening.
I'm not getting any rest.